Welcome to our sixth annual Beginning Again retreat. We're going to continue the conversation about how life evolves for us after caregiving ends. And Jennifer is going to share some insights and tips to help us navigate the professional world after caregiving. So, Jennifer, take it away.
Thank you so much. And I'm having a little bit of a technical problem because you should be able to see me right now, but we'll just persevere because time. So, my name is Jennifer Fink. My mom had Alzheimer's disease for at least 20 years, and she overlapped with her mom who had vascular dementia. And it was just recently that I not learned, but remembered that I have actually been dealing with some form of dementia since I was like a sophomore in high school because our immediate next door neighbor, after the loss of her husband, pretty much lost her mind. And that's not the proper term these days, but that's pretty much what it was like dealing with our neighbor. So you think my family, my extended group would have been prepared for caregiving or, what comes after. But unfortunately, that was not the case. And when my father died in 2017 and I became responsible for my mom, I went looking for advice and wisdom like we're doing today. And I could not find anything that worked, anything that resonated with me. And I got the brilliant idea to start a podcast. So I have had the Fading Memories podcast since 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago at this point. We have new episodes every Tuesday, and I get to talk to fantastic people like yourself. And I'm still learning great caregiving practices, even though my mom's been gone for 5.5 years. And kind of along the line of Paul, my mom died literally at the start of the pandemic. It was March 31st, 2020. So I think we all can remember what was going on. We were all a little confused, a little scared, trying to figure out, excuse me, what in the heck was going on. And I had to navigate losing my mom at the same time. So that is why I came up with this program, Navigating the Professional World After Caregiving, because I became my mom's caregiver at 50. So we don't have an economy where I can just retire at 50, especially after being self-employed most of my life. And so I hope this resonates with many of you because I think it's an important topic. So let me just start by saying you have just completed the most demanding, high stakes job in the world. And it came with no training, no manual, no formal salary, and definitely intense emotional costs. So before you touch your resume, before you browse a job board, you're going to have to commit to healing. And that is the step that I kind of skipped because I thought I'd already gone through the grief process with my mom. But I've learned in the last few, 2 or 3 years that you can't skip that step at all. Skipping this step can be a recipe for a quick burnout in any new role you may take on, or it may enable you to make choices that really aren't a good fit. And so when you're a caregiver, your own well-being, as we all know, is often postponed indefinitely. And we have to change that mindset. The emotional strain of caregiving, especially after the loss, is layered. There's grief, exhaustion, some relief, and it's the professional fear of reentry. Now, what am I going to do with myself? Even if you're not going back into the job market, to the corporate world, the thing that's sustained you day to day for likely years is over. And now the big question, now what? So I'm going to offer you how to rethink healing and kind of set yourself up for the next phase of your life. And so that is the 3 R's of healing, which are now your non-negotiables because we got to take care of ourselves. So the first one obviously is rest, which I just realized is spelled wrong on my slide. So I apologize. And I don't mean sleep. I mean giving your brain a true break from the crisis mode that you've been existing in. You need to commit to a defined period of no caregiving tasks and no job searching pressures. Just allow yourself to figure out what day to day is going to be like. And then you can start mapping out, what weeks are going to look like, months, and what your future is going to look like. Excuse me. So this is specifically a pause and purpose reset. It's kind of a way to take a breath mentally as well as physically. And then, second, we're going to kind of reroute our thinking by creating new routines. Obviously, caregiving provided a relentless daily structure, and the sudden absence of that routine can leave you feeling lost and confused. Try having those feelings on top of what in the heck is going on with this COVID thing. That's where I was at 5.5 years ago. And so we have to actively reroute our thought process by creating new healthy routines, probably a dedicated exercise time, maybe a new hobby. I took up handmade greeting card making during the pandemic, and I still do that today. Maybe you're just simply defining your work hours when you do go back into the work world, or you are going to do more volunteering. We need to have boundaries, and these new routines can create new stability. So the third R is refuel. And this is really helpfully done during with professional support, because you would not handle a complex legal issue without a lawyer. So I recommend that you not try to handle complex grief and burnout without some kind of professional help. Seeking out a therapist or a support group is definitely not a sign of weakness. It's actually, when you reframe your thought process, it's kind of a professional necessity that demonstrates that you're serious about managing your mental health and showing up as your best self for your next career opportunity. So, our next, oops, hello, we are having, oh, thought I was having a technical issue. Thankfully, not. So, we're going to also reframe our thought process on what we've been through. We're going to stop calling our time away a gap. You didn't take time off from your career, you took a sabbatical in service. Or you can come up with your own term, but I kind of like that one because it sounds very official and very important, because what you have been doing is very important. This was not a career pause, it was an intense executive level leadership development program. And when you think about all of the things that you've done, it definitely was leadership development, because these skills that you gained are exactly the skills employers are desperately seeking right now. You are not starting from scratch. You are leveraging at least a master's degree in human capital management. And I personally tell a lot of my caregivers that I think we should be granted an honorary PhD for all of the things we learned. So now, if you think about PhD level learning and you refocus it in how the skills that you've been managing, let's look at how we can change the terminology. So, the first one, you've probably learned crisis management and rapid decision making. You navigated medical emergencies, insurance roadblocks, logistical chaos, and you didn't just manage a crisis, you probably managed simultaneous crises under intense emotional pressure. Now, if you think about that for a minute, that's a lot. Like, that's worth some serious credit, and in the corporate world, it's worth some serious money. So, we want to take our skill set, rethink them maybe in corporate speak. So the second set of skills I'm convinced that you've learned are complex problem solving and resourcefulness, because you solved impossible problems with finite resources like time, money, and energy. And it does not matter how much time, money, and energy you have, it's never enough, especially in caregiving. And what resources are corporate America the most interested in is maximizing the money for the time and energy that you've put in. Things that you probably did was find reliable care. You probably adapted the home environment and probably negotiated with doctors and vendors. And this is pure high level problem solving. Let's think about our fierce dedication and resilience. You showed up day after day for a challenge that never ended. That level of long term commitment and emotional grit translates to unmatched employee loyalty and perseverance. Now, we all know companies want us to be loyal and dedicated to them and them alone. But I just read an article recently that had a study that said a large percentage of employees value loyalty over a higher paycheck. So if you can demonstrate that you are putting in fierce dedication and resilience, that you're going to be showing up with your full self every day, you're going to be able to demand that in return. The last reframing we probably should think about is emotional intelligence and communication. Now, since the pandemic and the work from home movement, communication has really changed, and it's been a challenge for our corporate leaders. You were the primary communicator between multiple parties: doctors, specialists, family members, insurance providers, and you practiced empathetic listening and high stakes negotiations every single day. Now, think about being in a sales meeting or some other kind of meeting, and that's a valuable skill. And so when we sit back and we think about all of the things that we've navigated as caregivers, we can we can tweak the terminology so that it's more appealing to corporate America. So the next step that we're going to do is, excuse me, I think we're going to learn how to articulate some of these skills that excuse me, we're going to learn how to articulate the skills that we learned in perhaps an interview setting. So the key to learning how to articulate these skills, I always suggest people try the STAR method. And the STAR method starts with, what was the situation that you navigated? It's been a little while since I've been in an interview because I have been self-employed for a very long time, but I hear stories, and they always want to know, like, what did you tackle? What was your best accomplishment? So that's the S, the situation. And you can start with something as simple sounding as my loved one's health declined, requiring complex home management. Now, home management could be renovating a bathroom for easier access, bringing in home health aides, navigating a care team and managing all of that. I mean, it's not as simple as that little statement sounds. And then we're going to add to that, like, what tasks were involved in navigating that situation. So that is our T. And you can say something to the effect is, I needed to manage their medications, their appointments, and communicate status updates to 5 different family members and 3 doctors. It could be 15 family members. It sometimes feels that way. That's a lot. Now, if you're a manager, these are the kind of things that you do. It's just the focus is different. It's not necessarily focused on a sick individual. So again, we're rethinking what we did through a corporate lens. Then what actions did we need to take to accomplish the task that we just mentioned? You can, what did you do to get this done? Maybe you designed and implemented a shared digital health dashboard. That could be something as simple as you set up a Google Doc and a regular Zoom link. It does not have to be creating your own app, but a shared digital health dashboard sounds much better than, oh, I just had a Google Doc for the family members. You also, maybe you coordinated a weekly video check-in, streaming communication across all stakeholders. Again, we're rethinking how we talk about our caregiving so that it is more, maybe for the lack of a better term, appealing to a potential employer or sponsor or whoever money we're going after. And then obviously they're going to want to know, what were the results? Like, what you had this situation, you did these things, what was the outcome? Obviously you will know what your outcome was, but perhaps your system, whether it was super basic or fancy, may reduce communications by 90%. Maybe it cut down on unnecessary phone calls, and it allowed you to be fully present in whatever work you were doing at the moment, whether that be outside caregiving or alongside caregiving or simply just caregiving, because the system that you had put in place was running efficiently, and that allowed you to be present in whatever thing you had to do next, because there's always lots of things we got to do. So we're reframing how we think about what we've been through, because what you've been doing is not just a family chore. It's not just a, responsibility because you're the spouse or the oldest child. What you've done is create a professional, simple, professional system implementation. It's a little early for some of these words this morning. It shows that you've done project management, you've enabled communication strategies, and you've utilized technological resourcefulness. And this is how you advocate for yourself wherever you're going next. Rethink how and what you've been doing for the past however many years. Oh, we are having just a little issue with my tech here. So now you've rethought your mental resume. Maybe you're starting to put one together. You've got all this new corporate speak attached to your caregiving chores and responsibilities. Now it's time to think about where you want to go. You've healed yourself and you've learned how to articulate your new skills. Now comes the most inspiring step, finding your new purpose. Your caregiving journey fundamentally changed your priorities. That you that left the workforce is not the you who is reentering. You have a new internal compass, and we want to align your career with this new powerful set of values. And even if you're not going back into the corporate world, maybe you're starting your own business or you want to get into more volunteering, these are still important questions to ask yourself so that you're doing something that feels very purposeful and aligned with your values. Caregiving didn't just teach you new skills, it showed you what truly matters to you. So you're going to ask yourself some powerful questions. What was the most rewarding, non-technical part of my caregiving? For me, that was connecting with other caregivers, but also connecting with a lot of the residents that my mom lived with in memory care for the last 3 years of her life. I was touched by these people, and it is one of the reasons that I continue to do what I'm doing today. I've also become an advocate, and I like to joke that I'm a quote professional volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association. And post caregiving, I have more time to do some of that. So, what was the most non technical part of my caregiving? It was the connections and the advocacy that made things, feel aligned with what was important to me. What value did this experience ignite in me? Well, I like helping people. I'm actually a retired portrait photographer, and I wasn't sure that doing a podcast and this advocacy, I didn't know if that was truly who I was. But I used to do nice things for families. I created beautiful portraits for them. Now I do nice things for families by helping them navigate this journey that we've all been through. Then another question is that you seriously need to ask is, what are your non-negotiables? If flexibility was a fight before with your, spouse or your manager, you have to make sure it's guaranteed now. If mission mattered a little bit before, it should matter immensely now. Your answers to these questions, and I'm hoping these questions will spark others in your mind, will guide your job search or your new journey search toward roles that feel less like a job and more like a vocation. So, another question to ask when we're thinking about our pivot is, where does empathy meet efficiency? You are now a rare professional blend, a highly efficient logistical problem solver with profound empathy. This combination is pure gold. Keep that in mind. You are uniquely positioned to excel in fields where human-centered leadership is crucial. So you might want to consider pivoting towards roles that leverage this duality. Maybe you're going to go into HR or employee well-being. I think HR should all have former caregivers in them. I don't think I need to explain to you guys why. Our experience has made us the ultimate champions for caregiving-friendly culture, which our corporations desperately need. And you can help design the policies that you wish you had or you think that current caregivers and sandwich people need to have. You can help corporations thrive as a company by establishing these kind of roles. But maybe you're not an HR person. I know I am certainly not. Maybe you're better at logistics and operations. Obviously, you've been managing a complex, high stakes systems. A human life does not get more complex or high stake, and you did it 24/7. So, obviously, project management, logistics, and supply chain roles are things that you might want to consider because it'll utilize some of your crisis management skills and your organizational skills. And then I think a lot of us kind of pivot towards mission driven organizations. Maybe it's a nonprofit, maybe it's healthcare technology firms or patient advocacy groups. All of these kind of organizations will benefit from your personal commitment and deep understanding of the user experience. Oops, sorry, I missed a slide. I'm not always great at advancing my slides. So we want to, now that we've reframed our skill set in corporate speak, we've thought about the direction we want to go. Now we need to do just a little bit more work before we put ourselves out there, because we want to be able to research which companies actually have a culture of care. And there are some out there, and there's hopefully more coming. It's one of my goals is to help retrain corporate America. That's an uphill battle. So I want you to think about when you're interviewing, you are also interviewing the company. In some of these crazy economic times we have, that might be really hard to remember, but you don't want to jump in, out of the pan and into the fire. So you want to make sure that you're using your caregiving experience as an edge. You know how to spot genuine support. Instead of just asking about flexibility, ask specific questions. Perhaps you could ask, can you describe how your team leaders handle unexpected non-sick leave, such as a child's school closing or an elder's medical appointment? What is the company's philosophy on employee well-being as it relates to burnout prevention? Now, this is something companies are actually starting to pay a lot more attention to. And I think asking that question will give them a lot of information about you, and you will learn a lot about them with their response. So I think that one's a really important one. And then there are two companies that are really good at culture of care, and that's Deloitte and Microsoft. So a question like, I know companies like Deloitte and Microsoft are leading the way with specific family support programs. What does this organization offer for adult caregivers? I would love to see the answers, the faces behind those answers when those questions get asked. So if anybody has the opportunity to do that, post it online, because I think that's a very telling question. And by asking these questions, you're going to demonstrate not only that you have a high demand skill set, but that you are an informed candidate. Obviously, that is important regardless of how we're interviewing, but you want to make sure that you are prioritizing a healthy workplace. You are an asset helping them raise their game, because you've got all these skills that I think are PhD worthy, and they need to know and pay for that. And again,
Just a quick heads up, Jennifer, you've just got a couple minutes left.
Not a problem. So this is my wrap up. The 3 pillars, so we're going to recap real quick. We're going to heal. We're going to advocate for ourselves. We're going to think about what our purpose is. And your caregiving journey was not a footnote in your career. It was a powerful, transformative chapter. You have learned how to love fiercely, advocate relentlessly, and manage a crisis with grace. It is now time to turn that power outward, and it's time to transform the care you gave into the impact you make. So now I will take questions, and I'm going to see if I can figure out how to get myself to show up.
Yeah, we just
Oh,
have,
there's the problem. Nope. There we go. Hello.
yeah. That was awesome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And I just want to mention that we do have a free training program called a Certified Family Care Manager training that professionalizes your experience during caregiving. It includes 13 classes that are about 20 minutes in length for each one, and then you receive a certification that you can post on LinkedIn and include on your resume. So it's not a lost or a gap space in your resume. It's actually a profession.
It is, what was that term that I used? I'll make sure I get it right. It was sabbatical in service.
There you go. Yeah, this was awesome. So the comments in the chat room have really focused on how helpful the STAR method is. And Beth is sharing that that's also really helpful during caregiving to use that process. And Christy is sharing for someone who hasn't been in corporate for a while, this was spot on.
Oh, thank you. I think being an entrepreneur helps me think both ways. I hope. I don't know. My dad always said, I'm of two minds of this. Drives me bananas when I'm also of two minds. And he was a Gemini, so it was always kind of a hysterical statement.
So we'll just share one more comment in the chat room. And so Dennis is sharing that his lesson learned for HR and supervisors, mild cognitive impairment and dementia is a disability, recognizing and getting diagnosed before retiring, resigning, or being fired is important, and use long-term care disability insurance. And we definitely will see a population of individuals with an early stage diagnosis still in the corporate workplace, still in our workforce, and we want to think about ways to support them. We're actually starting a program in January to support individuals with an early stage dementia diagnosis, and we're going to use coaching and technology to support them. We support any family caregiver. We just have a couple dementia care specific programs.
That sounds
And
awesome.
yeah, Jennifer, before you leave, please put your contact information in the chat room. And for those of
Certainly.
you who are watching the archive, the show notes will have Jennifer's contact information. This was really helpful. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
And we're going to stop for a few minutes and take a quick break and then come back.